Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Generally Casual. This is one of your co-hosts, Michael, and joined with me are Richard and Corey.
Hey.
Yo.
I was very close to saying my name again.
Yep.
Joined with me are Michael
Richard
and
Corey
Michael.
and Michael.
Yeah, Michael, and Michael.
Welcome to Generally Casual with Michael.
And
Just
Michael. And that's when we use our editing software to digitally edit me into 2 more spots. And I'm just talking with myself for 30 minutes. Well, hello, everybody. And today we are just jumping right into it. 2 days ago, we decided to sit down because October's coming up and enjoy the lovely creature features that Richard had picked out for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Corey picked out one of them, and I picked out the other 2.
Yes. No. Don't give Corey anything.
What?
Yeah, no, I will.
What?
I will. I'm going to give credit where credit is due.
Corey picked out all 3. Good job, Corey. Thank you.
I was consulted for all 3.
Yeah.
So, similar to last year,
We'll give you the fee.
scrolling into October, we wanted to start weird and wonderful things before heading in, because October, for whatever reason, even last year and this year, is already crowded with topics.
Are we off on the wacky races already?
Yep. This time it's filled with alligators, sharks, and snakes.
Yeah.
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 What a wacky race that is.
Yeah. And if you've never heard what a creature feature is in the first place, Richard, what is a creature feature by Lexico's definition?
Yeah, we're going to actually do 2 definitions because we didn't really Michael and I didn't really like the Lexico definition. But the Lexico definition is a film or television program featuring fantastical or monstrous creatures.
Which is our problem is that it says fantastical and monstrous, both which are descriptions of other types of horror movies.
Correct.
So you could also, you could interpret that as fantastical as in, it's an everyday creature, but it's acting very strangely.
It's greater than normal, yes.
Well, see, that's the thing is, spoiler alert slightly, we watched the movie Crawl, and they weren't really that fantastical. They just seemed to be normal gators in an unusual situation.
I don't know. They were spawn camping. I think that's
Sure.
unusual.
No.
For a gator.
No.
Well, also it sounds like what the Harry Potter movie that came out?
Fantastic Beasts.
Yeah,
Oh,
Fantastic
yeah.
Beasts and Where to Find Them. I'm like, okay, those are fantastic beasts.
Yeah,
Yes,
they're fantastical.
They're out of the norm. They're all rare, and people don't normally see them. That's fantastic. And I'm like, when they say fantastical, and then we talk about snakes on a plane, it's like, those aren't fantastic snakes. Those are just snakes, and they're upset.
And they actually gave a reason in Snakes on a Plane for them acting fantastically.
They hate flowers. Yeah.
They don't like pheromones. Their own pheromones for some reason.
So,
anyway,
because of these reasons, we have chosen to also include Wikipedia's definition, which Richard likes a lot more.
yes, which is why we came up with the title of this episode, because it's called Creature Features. I guess the original, now more modern term is called natural horrors, which is a subgenre of horror films that features natural forces, typically in the form of animals or plants that pose a threat to human characters. Now, one thing I want to say about this is that is different than disaster movies, because natural generally also would include weather or other things like that. But that is a whole separate subsection called disaster films, which disaster films are centralized around weather.
Yeah. I'd also like to say that in Killer Animals, it talks about the Lost World. So I would like to put forth one more time that Jurassic Park is part of creature features.
Yes. That's actually talking about the Lost World, not Jurassic Park 2, though.
Yeah, even though if you we pop down here and you look at dinosaurs and it's not on there. But
I mean,
Godzilla for some reason is, which we all know Godzilla's an action film. So,
but it makes sense to include dinosaurs in creature features because dinosaurs are they are things that have existed. So
Yes.
it is considered a part of natural phenomena.
See, that's why it surprises me that Godzilla's even on this list, because Godzilla would, to me, to be more of a monster movie than it would be.
either way,
a creature.
whoever edited Wikipedia and Lexico needs to go get their information checked out
And
because
collaborated.
yes,
I mean,
they need to figure this out.
Maybe they're taking the stance of Godzilla in the lore of Godzilla is a natural phenomena that crops
This
up.
is true.
So, he isn't King Ghidorah, which would be, a monster flick because he came from outer space, whereas Godzilla is terrestrial.
But is it an asteroid? A natural? Anyways.
That derailed this entire episode.
That also brings up the question, though. Is Sharknado a disaster film or a creature feature?
It's both. It's combined. Technically, I would argue that Crawl is kind of that.
Both as well.
But so anyway, we'll go further into that when we talk more about Crawl. So we did 3 movies for this.
We've name dropped 2 of them already.
Yes. We started with a classic creature feature, which is Jaws. That's released in the 1970s. Very, very famous film. Obviously, it's about a killer shark in the small town of Amity, which is supposed to be set in the northeast Massachusetts
Made-up
area.
island in the northeast of America.
Correct. So it originally was a book, and then a few years after the book came out, it was released as a movie, directed by Steven Spielberg. Had tons and tons of problems, specifically with the shark that they used, the robotic shark. And we actually learned a bit about this in a recent trip to California Academy of Sciences. They have a wonderful exhibit about sharks. And they actually talked about Jaws movie and kind of a couple of the other things.
Yeah. So if you are in California and near the Bay Area, go to San Francisco and go see the Academy of Sciences probably for the next possibly 9 months before that disappears.
Yeah, probably for the next at least few months.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great exhibit. They talk about sharks and the actual reality of sharks versus Jaws, which was mostly fictional.
They specifically target Jaws because Jaws is such a popular shark movie, and also brought in many other shark movies with it because it's just so fun to be like, oh, there's a crazy shark in the water. It's going to eat everybody.
And it also caused a whole bunch of misconceptions revolving around sharks for a long period of time, too.
Which is probably where Shark Week came from.
Yes. Which is funny because in reality, only the most recent Shark Week actually gave a little a picture about the amount of deaths that are associated with sharks by comparison to other animals. And sharks have a lot less. Well, we'll probably end up doing a whole entire episode during Shark Week and shark movies and other stuff like that. But to move on, interesting facts about Jaws. Like I said, the monster or the robot shark that they used had tons and tons of problems. It broke down on a regular basis. There were many injuries from this specific shark throughout the entire Jaws series. They actually went through 4 or 5 different robots specifically for Jaws. And like I said, there's been multiple people injured.
Robots or animatronics?
Animatronics.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe a lot of people on the cast and the set, the technicians who worked on it, were scared of the jaw itself because sometimes it would just clamp closed.
Yes.
And scare the bejesus out of people.
Wow. Yeah, it almost gives you can see a bit of the inspiration for a lot of Five Nights at Freddy's coming from draws and animatronics that evolved post that time too.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But what I find interesting about the movie Jaws is that not only did they make it a very extreme version of a shark in the way that it hunted and attacked people, because that was one of the really entertaining scenes for me, was that first scene when the shark shows up and the poor girl is just getting dragged all the way one way and then all the way the other, and the whole time her body's sticking out of the water and she's just and it's kind of like the shark is just tugging around this leg that's just going one way or another, and the girl's oh, what's going on?
And then her drunk man is I can't make it into the water, which you would assume would wake him back up. I mean, a drunk person swimming is never a good thing.
Nah.
But he just passes out on the coastline where the tide's coming in, and then just wakes back up right there. I'm like, my guy, you're not afraid of dying there and being swept off to sea? Come on.
I thought the funniest part was as he was running, she immediately got all of her clothes off and was immediately in the ocean. He's like, I'm too drunk to take my clothes off.
Yeah.
He tried to, you could definitely see that he tried and was just he gave up halfway through his shirt coming off. I can't do this. I'm too drunk to do this.
He was too drunk to actually stay awake and then remember to get in the water. Yeah. I'm like, this is a fantastic movie right here.
Yeah. I was gonna say the whole like obviously how it attacks is one fantastical point of it, a dramatization, if you will.
Yes.
But they also went the avenue of making it ridiculously larger than any shark has the capacity to be in our age.
Yeah, in our age. Yeah.
Spoilers, that continues the trend throughout the entirety of the Jaws series.
Yeah, in fact, it also gets bigger as the movie goes on.
Yeah.
I really like the story of Jaws, and if you don't know, it's basically giant shark visits island for whatever reason. Who knows where it came from? But I'm sure the other Jaws movies explain.
Yeah.
And then it starts attacking people, and then basically our three heroes, Quint, Hooper, and what's the last guy's name? Brody. They all kind of band together and go after the shark. Oh, I was going to show Corey the board game that came with it, but I forgot. And it's basically a 2-act movie. The first act takes place on an island and them dealing with the after effects of the shark. That's basically the whole second act takes place upon Quint's boat and them hunting the shark. It's a very straightforward movie.
The main thing that Jaws does is...
That's a different movie, Richard.
Yeah. is that first act is actually prevalent in a lot of horror movies. Basically, someone dies, and then the government of the city, town, whatever, tries to basically make it sound like nothing happened because there's some sort of large event going on in the town that they don't want to cancel. So then they're like, no, that's not a shark. It's a propeller. She got caught in the propeller.
What I love, too, is that it's like they're doing this whole thing of like, oh my goodness, I'm the mayor and I made all these bad choices up till now. I can't believe this is happening. We found out that the shark's favorite food is people, and we just kept sending people out into the ocean, and it just kept eating more people, to my surprise.
Also, what a bad mayor to not have pre-planned for anything happening on July 4th. Being like his whole excuse was like, oh no, our livelihood depends on this, and if we don't have it, like if we don't have this time, we're all gonna be like on welfare, and I'm like, are you guys kidding me? Like your whole town is based on this one event.
Also,
you have not pre-planned to be like, hey guys, we always want to put disaster funds away for this. Like every single event that comes up, we'll take part of this money and put it away. So that way, in case there's maybe a hurricane, which are prevalent on the East Coast, maybe some sort of, flash flood that happens, or maybe a pandemic arises.
Nope.
We don't know. Like,
no, we're worried about sharks right now. We're not worried about anything
also,
else.
you're supposed to believe that this is a town in America on 4th of July that is not setting off fireworks. You don't see any fireworks the entire time. Supposedly, Amity is in America. I'm setting the theory that it's not really in America because there were no fireworks.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah,
but
true.
To be also honest, it was rarely nighttime on the beach, like while we were watching.
Just the first scene.
Yes.
Oh, and then when they were out on the ocean, it was nighttime.
Still no fireworks.
Well, that's the thing, though. Like, the fireworks could have gotten canceled because
of the shark.
Because the shark attacked during the day.
But I don't know. I feel like if you're an event organizer and you're like, we're a summer town, like they keep reiterating throughout the whole time. if you're like, okay, swimming's off the table, people are being eaten, fireworks.
Yeah.
It's 4th of July. Let's at least do something that doesn't involve going into the water. And maybe the fireworks would scare the shark off too.
That's most likely true. The vibrations in the water might have done something to it.
By the way, also fun fact, there was a shooting star in this movie that was filmed naturally.
Yeah, we found that out as we were watching the film.
We're like, wait, what
is this red streak going across? And it was in 2 separate cuts.
Scenes. Yeah. 2 separate camera angles caught it. It was really interesting. So Act 1 kind of established, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then oh god, Mayor is like, oh, there really is a shark, and I was out on the beach, and my kids are out on the beach, and I'm freaking out, blah blah blah. So then they get really salty fisherman guy Quint, who from the beginning of the movie was like, nope, I'm gonna kill this shark, and you guys are gonna come back to me, and you owe me $10,000. So then they do. And then the 3 heroes go out on the boat and go hunt the shark. Yeah. And that's the second part of that's the second act. Which is
he should still
very
get
more exciting. He technically won $13,000.
Yeah.
So.
And it's the most entertaining part of the movie. Because the first half of the movie is just you going, why aren't they doing anything about this?
There's clearly a shark.
I get it. There,
everybody saw the shark. It's right there.
The cop's afraid of water. Got it. All right. The mayor doesn't want things to be shut down. Got it. Okay, but how many? What's the death count by now? I think it took like at least four people to die before they sent anyone out.
And so 2 were pretty public, and then there was like 2 that were out that they didn't really know about because it was like the old man, whatever his name is, in his boat, and he died.
Well, and a lot of the movie is based on the sheer misunderstanding of what a shark is. Like the first shark that they catch was like, oh yeah, this absolutely ate a boy. I'm like, do you see the shark? Like it cannot fit a boy inside of it.
Yeah,
it's too small.
The shark that they caught.
Yeah, they said it was a tiger shark, which that was also not 100% convinced that was a tiger shark. But
I don't know.
That was just me. I'm like, I thought tiger sharks were smaller than that. But
they brought someone from the Oceanic Institute
He confirmed
it was a tiger shark.
And that's the thing. I was like that. The whole movie misconstrues the way that sharks go, that the sharks behave, and even the author of the book said that if he had known what we know about sharks now, he would not have written the book.
Yes.
So, going from that, and also to set a nice preface for the rest of the discussion, is whether this movie has the plot progress based around the characters, or whether it centralizes around the monster, or in this case, creature itself. So, creature. But for this one, I would actually argue that in the first half, it's kind of like a mix, because it's the first half, it's just around the people, and that the shark is kind of an obstacle almost, and then the last half, it's very much like the plot progresses because of the shark.
Yeah.
So Jaws is probably the one exception. It is both the obstacle and and I think that's because the story itself lends itself to being centralized around the shark and it being the problem, but it ends up turning into like a Moby Dick situation towards the end of the movie, and that's centralized around the characters and stuff like that, and then the shark is just the problem they have to solve.
Absolutely. And I mean, you could almost look at the movie, like any of these movies, and make the argument if you lifted the creature out of the movie, would it still be the same? And I could make the argument for one of these that it would still be basically the movie.
Yes.
I could half make an argument, but Jaws, I mean, it's in the name. The whole situation arises about this crazy shark. And
if you took the shark out, Quint would have been like, not a shark.
Yeah.
I don't care.
But you couldn't really replace anything else into this movie and still keep it the same.
Yeah.
Especially not the soundtrack.
Yeah, and great job, John Williams, because the music he adds, I would say, unlike most other horror movies, does not it does not make it specifically a suspenseful movie. Like, I am not watching this and at the edge of my seat going, it just makes it good. Like, every aspect about this movie was done very well. You're angry at the mayor for being an idiot. You're loving the 3 main characters who are in it for, like, having a great personality about them. Like, you know what the characters are about. And I would say absolutely it revolves around the shark. And they could make the argument that it's not a normal shark. It's bigger than normal. We don't know why it exists in this ocean because nobody's seen a shark that big.
It's very aggressive.
So, yeah, and it's very aggressive. So it theoretically could be a different style of shark, you know? The way it acts could be different because it's much bigger and it's more aggressive predator. Maybe people put nuclear radiation in the ocean and then it started growing. And
hey, don't spoil the other movies.
Maybe in 50 years it'll fight Godzilla, but who knows?
But just like it's the next movie, it's definitely an apex predator.
Ooh.
So
yeah, Dad, I get it. I'm an apex predator.
So if you couldn't tell from that, the next movie, Crawl, that we watched, under my request.
This was Corey's pick.
Yeah.
It was still a fun movie.
It's a fun movie, but it was definitely very cheesy at times. And there are definitely certain scenes where you're like, really? They did it like that? Like, really?
Okay, one thing that I will say before we really get into this movie is the humans, the two main characters in the movie, are unnaturally resilient.
They're superhumans.
Yeah, they took so much damage throughout the entire movie.
Their HP was like at 5% by the end of the movie.
And I don't understand how they were able to get through it.
We'll put it this way. Without quite spoiling the movie, if you got bit by a crocodile about 5 times...
Alligator.
About 5 times, would you still be able to move like you normally move every day? Would you be able to swim through a flash flood? Would you be able to operate and function like you hadn't been bit 5 times by an alligator?
Would you be able to outswim alligators? I don't think so.
I mean, even just putting it, if you got bitten by an alligator once and it broke your leg to the point of the bone existing outside of your body, would you be able to move? Because they do. They stand and put pressure on that leg. So it's pretty insane. You do need to have a decent suspension of disbelief to watch this movie. But it does start out with Hurricane Ida, I believe they say.
Okay, so we have to talk about what Michael just looked up.
Yeah.
The swim speed of an alligator is 20 miles per hour. The average human speed is 6 miles per hour.
That's Michael Phelps.
So,
wait, Michael Phelps is 6 miles per hour?
That's what it said.
Oh my goodness. So this person literally outraced 20 miles, superhuman swimming speed in this movie.
At multiple points in the movie, the dad's like, "You're an apex predator. Outswim them. I believe in you." And she just outswims these alligators.
Yeah, it says Michael Phelps topped out around 6 miles an hour, and that's still about 3 times faster than the average human swimmer.
Wow.
And a shark can go 60 miles an hour, talking about our last one.
Wow.
And I believe some people were partially outswimming sharks in Jaws.
Yeah. Yeah. So, basic concept of Crawl. It, I think, is an entirely one-act movie. I don't think there's really 2 parts to it at all. It's set in Florida. A hurricane is coming down on the town.
That's normal.
They have a little bit of backstory of this main lady character. She's a swimmer in college, I believe, and then she's trying to find her dad, who ends up being in their old house, and he's down in the basement. Mm-hmm. And then basically, hurricane waters and alligators in the basement.
Yeah, and throughout the movie, it basically is there's like a flash flood and the water levels start rising.
The levee breaks.
Yeah, the levee breaks. And the theme of the whole movie is basically how alligators can like kill people and how aggressive they can be when they're in their own
habitat. Yeah,
in their habitat.
Yeah.
To be honest, that's true.
Yes.
Alligators are very dangerous creatures. And the movie does provide some facts there because they are all over Florida.
Yes.
Many times people will wake up and go into their backyard and there'll be an alligator in their pool.
Coincidentally, with Hurricane Ida that's been going on, literally some of what happened in Crawl happened recently with Hurricane Ida. Literally the water levels rose, an alligator got into someone's house and attacked somebody.
Yes.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
Now, I will provide the facts that a lot of the reports are the elderly being attacked by gators because a normal person should be able to outrun a gator.
On land, for sure.
Yes, on land, absolutely.
As long as you can get out of the initial spring.
Yeah.
Because that's what alligators and crocodiles both like to do is they store up a lot of energy for one initial leap.
And that is actually one of my problems with this movie. Is the gators never stop alligators, right?
Yes,
yeah, they never stop attacking, and normally a gator will quickly
retreat.
Yeah, will quickly attack and then going, "Oh, I didn't get you. I'll go back.
I gotta go back.
Yeah, and I'll
store
chill.
energy for the next time.
Yeah, and if you've ever wanted to see a gator swimming, either just look it up or look at the movie Godzilla because it does a great job because Godzilla swims like a gator does.
Yeah, with its tail.
Its tail provides most of the thrust for most of the propulsion for its swimming because the tail literally is why it's moving so quick. Overall feelings about the movie, it was really fun.
It was fun.
I enjoyed myself watching it, but it was the unnaturalness of the Gators the entire time that was like, what are they doing?
No, honestly, it wasn't the unnaturalness of the Gators for me. It was the unnaturalness of the humans. That was my biggest problem. Other than there were some really cool sound cues, like at the beginning of the movie, where the alligator like went up to pipes and then the tail scraped against the pipes. It was very cool, like sound.
Like,
yeah. Very cool, like
or
initial stuff.
Hearing
like
the hiss, like you would hear like a slight hiss, and at the start, and you're like, "Oh, that's pipes," and it wasn't pipes because the gator was already there. Like I wasn't expecting it to begin so quickly because it was practically like she goes down to the basement, and then the movie's really chugging along.
To that point,
yeah,
that is my other biggest problem with the movie. It is internationally known that both crocodiles and gators have no strength to lift up their jaw. All of their strength is closing their jaw.
Yeah.
And there was plenty of things, like her dad was tied up with 27 different things that could be used to close these gators' mouth.
So I would say that complaint is very, very applicable to the start of the movie, but very quickly gets out of hands when you're dealing with more than one alligator at a time.
That is true.
Absolutely.
Because towards the end of the movie, there's an ungodly amount of gators showing up. But
all of Florida's gators showed up.
Yeah, I want to say that they really deserved what was coming to them. Because first of all, that basement or that crawl space, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, it wasn't really
was a very large crawl
basement.
space.
Mm-hmm. Even though there were stairs,
it was
down
very
to it.
poorly designed for being in Florida. And then also, they just straight up had a stormwater drain in Florida open to where alligators live.
Yeah.
Into their basement.
To be fair.
And it's like, why was that not sealed or gated?
To be fair, it was gated.
But it was broken.
Which also doesn't make any sense. Because a gator would not just break it open.
No.
But maybe, it looks like something, when they do a zoom out on it, when she crawls out of the hole, like, it looks like something burst out of it.
Yeah.
But all in all, just a very not well-kept, house at all. For flooding, it makes sense. It has a little bit of lift to it. It has all those holes so the water can just flood right through it, right? But most of the time, it's like it's right next to a nest, and it's like
so there was a lot of happenstance things, and I guess the weird thing is that if it's like a floodway underneath the house, why have storm cellar type doors also?
Yeah,
that was weird. If it's a storm cellar, then why is it also a floodway? That doesn't make any sense.
But it was overall a very entertaining movie. I think one of the best and worst parts of the movie for me was they finally get out of the house and then they just get swept in the boat back into the same house.
And both of you guys were like, well, that's not the same house.
And then we saw everything. We're like, okay, that's the same house.
Literally, that's okay. Yeah, sorry. The tree that broke the window at the beginning of the movie is right there in that second scene, right when they get into the house. Yeah. So I guess it's the same house again. And then they make a funny statement. She says, "Are you kidding me?" After looking around the house, realizing it's her house again.
Yeah. I also love that around that time, there's 6 people who die outside of the house, and each one of them is like a little bit on the rescue point, going, "Oh, we could, there's people there. Let's go get them out." Even the robbers were like one of them is like, "Yeah, I'll go help that person," but each time, the gators were like, "Oh yeah, we'll get those people," and I'm like, "Gators."
And they very comically attack people.
Yes.
So it's like the guy turns around, and just as he turns around, his partner gets eaten.
And my biggest problem is that they never grab and do the twist.
They did once in the movie.
And that was the
entire
movie. All those people who died outside, never. It was like, grab.
Yeah.
Grab,
I'm going to chomp your arm off or your head.
The reason why your arm comes off is because they twist, and your arm can't deal with that.
Because gators and crocodiles don't want to let go. That's their whole thing. Like Michael said, all their power is in closing that jaw
and keeping it closed,
holding on, and then they death roll.
Yeah.
And that's why they're much, much less dangerous on land too, because they can't death roll. It's all
again,
in that grab and they reverse into water.
My biggest problem with that is a gator would not just walk up to you when they don't have water around to drag you in. Like, that's their attack. Yeah. That's their attack pattern. And no matter where they are, they go grab, pull you in the water, twist.
Yep.
And then, then they don't need you anymore because you're going to either bleed out or they have their leg. Like, that's like most of...
or like you're so worn out from dealing with it, you can't do anything.
Yeah, and they don't really... They're heavy creatures, and they don't need to fight you. No. Because you're not getting out of their jaws.
Right.
That's my other segue into... these were very clearly ridiculously strong and powerful and over-evolved gators because they're apparently extremely heavy too, as seen... when it just steps on a phone with 1 foot and crushes it instantly on a mud. So it's not like the phone sinks. It just crushes.
I love also that was a good plot point for a good 5 to 10 minutes of that movie. The initial ringing of that phone, they're like, all right, this is the new objective, the phone. And then just happenstance, the croc was like... or the gator was just like, all right, I'm just going to step on it. It's like, well, there goes that plot point.
And again, like what Corey said, it didn't sink. I mean, it was it was tough ground. But I mean, like, phones can stand up to more than that. Even, like, this movie came out 2 years ago. I'm like, okay, guys, 2 years ago phones? I mean, this lady doesn't have a case, doesn't have a screen protector.
Probably talking maybe 10 pounds of pressure.
And also... it steps on the phone enough to completely kill the phone. Like, that phone turned off immediately. And I'm like,
shattered and turned off.
And you can't see the screen at all. I'm like, what's going on? Okay, but for the most part, Crawl is an okay movie.
It was fun.
Yes.
So, to our original question that we talked about with Jaws, does the plot centralize around the creature, or is it just kind of an obstacle?
I would say the creature is an obstacle, and part of my criticism with the movie is that the plot is the obstacle.
Yeah, that kind of is. You're right.
Like the plot is get out because a storm's coming, and then the obstacle is obviously
you can't get out
the
because
spawn
there's a gator.
camping alligator that knows how stairs work.
You know what's ridiculous? Her dad was passed out ever since she arrived there. Right when her dad woke up, he was fine. Like, for the rest of the movie, he never passed out again. Apparently, he kept all the blood in his body.
You know what it is? It's that like, he had so many ropes and belts and stuff on him. He was able to tie off every single injury.
All the blood's just on the inside. And that's the thing. I'm like, okay, why were you passed out? You didn't even bother to try to get to a safe point. Like, he got into his little metal bunker and then just died. And then it was like... and
he got into shock and passed out, but then when he reset his leg bone, he didn't go into shock and pass out again.
Yeah, and so, like, I was like, okay, this is more of a hurricane flash flood movie than it is about gators. Because I'm like, without the gators, you still have the problem of flood. And maybe he could have injured himself any other way. Like, maybe he cut his leg, and it's a really bad cut. Or maybe, like, a bunch of metal fell on him, and he couldn't get out.
Because you could replace, with the way that the story progresses, you could replace the alligators with any other really, like, obnoxiously aggressive animal or monster and still have the whole preface of they're trapped, a hurricane's coming, the levee breaks, they need to be out before the levee breaks.
You know, as a strange transition, you could have filled it with a bunch of snakes.
You could have.
Oh, man. That is true.
There's water snakes. They exist.
Yes, they do.
To me, that leads into the most ridiculous plot of the three movies, though, honestly. Like, Crawl has a pretty basic, I have to find my dad, get out of the hurricane. That's very basic. Jaws, clearly, okay, it's 4th of July. We got the town saved, blah, blah, blah. Shark messes up everything. Snakes on a plane. Ridiculous plot.
They make mention in the movie going, is this the way you want to take them out? Like, you like even like
the main bad guy's like, I've exhausted every other option.
So obviously snakes in the cargo plane and spraying Lays with pheromones and then having a timed like mini explosion for opening the snakes and then hoping that one of them randomly bites the avionics. The part I hate about that movie every time I watch it, in the first 20 minutes of that movie, there's a snake that goes, Wires? What are those? They're not moving at all. I gotta bite them.
I kind of ignored that a little bit because the way that the movie progresses, the
captain
pilots
does
would have been
that.
in trouble anyway. So, like, even if those wires hadn't been bitten, you could make the argument things would have progressed just a little more slowly. Just with the snakes then coming at people with the lights
But then the
on.
pilots could have just switched on autopilot, and then they could have actually dealt with it.
This is true.
To
back up a little bit.
the plane goes. Woo!
To back up a little bit. Okay, the basic plot of Snakes on a Plane is this really cool motorbike guy.
Oh man, I
He's
love
super
how
cool.
Super cool.
Also a nice guy.
Super nice, cool guy.
he's a cool
Riding
guy.
his dirt
He
bike
rides
around
bikes.
Hawaii.
But you know what he doesn't do? He doesn't smoke cigarettes.
No, he does not.
He's a cool guy.
He's a cool guy.
He
He's
just
upstanding.
leaves his cans around like an uncool guy.
Yeah, and you know what? The place he lives, super nice. Also,
Hawaii.
yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also everybody knows where he lives.
Apparently. So he comes across this prosecutor who ends up getting killed by this mafia gang guy who's really, really famous across the United States for being really bad.
Mm-hmm.
So he witnesses this guy's murder, gets away, and then all of the sudden, everybody knows where his apartment is, including the FBI.
Who has not seen this guy?
Nobody's seen this guy.
No, I mean, so the gang boss can apparently identify and locate this guy purely based out of an image. I'm like, that's insanely hard.
No.
It was the sound.
It was the sound of the motorbike. That was it. They didn't see him.
They
just heard the motorbike.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. That's true. Well, I guess the guys who shot at him saw the back of him.
Sure. He already, I think, I don't even
Richard,
see if he had his helmet on.
He's such a cool guy. No, he didn't have his helmet on.
Oh, okay.
He's such a cool guy that there's only one guy in Hawaii with a motorbike. They're like,
Exactly.
oh, that's the motorbike
So,
guy, obviously.
They find him. Then Samuel L. Jackson, of course, then comes in and saves the entire movie by saving this guy. And so now he's in quote-unquote witness protection where he then has to give testimony to put the bad guy away. And unfortunately, the guy is tried in Los Angeles. So they have to take a plane from Hawaii to Los Angeles to go to the trial.
Makes sense. Okay.
I also like how they're like, we're going to secretly change which plane you're on. No one knows, not even the police. Yet they get a police officer with a dog to screen the plane that they're changing him to beforehand. And because of that, one of the inserted guy,
luggage guys.
Yeah.
It was a luggage guy, yeah.
Tells the boss, like, this is the plane he's on.
Also,
and it's like, what was the point of doing all that other stuff in secret if you then have this one police guy?
Exactly. It's like, that's such a dumb idea to be like, oh, well, he doesn't know what plane we're on, but we're still going to scan it.
Yeah.
Also, such a dumb thing. So he figures out what plane he's on and then somehow gets an entire cargo full of Lays into the bottom of the plane.
And snakes. When do they have the time for this?
And putting snakes in there. I mean, they could have made them all pass out.
There was probably like a time.
But then they hide them between the boxes of Lays? Like, are those boxes there to give them again at the end of the flight?
Sure, why not?
They're using the same boxes.
Yeah, why not?
What?
So, to take it a step further, this is the main thing about this movie, is it is on purpose written this way.
Yes,
it is not
absolutely.
supposed to be a good movie. With literally a title
movie,
of a movie, Snakes on a Plane, it was not written to win Academy Awards. It was written to not take itself seriously and be a fun, entertaining, not coherent movie at all.
Yeah. Which you find out very quickly as soon as the first snake strikes, which is a very mid 2000s sort of slasher trope of like right on the boob,
and right on a dude's junk.
Yeah, it very much followed the what was that horror movie that we did last year? Scream trope of don't have sex because if you do, you're gonna die because of course the couple that's having sex die first.
Yeah, absolutely. It follows a lot of tropes.
Oh yeah,
it's a great movie. And I would probably say Snakes on the Plane is such a fun movie to watch. and I'm only giving gripes about it because we're kind of slightly reviewing this, but it's a really fun movie.
Like we just said, it's not written to be like this coherent, amazing story.
It's a Hitchcock movie.
It's just supposed to be like, okay, we've created this plot now. Now, how do we insert snakes and a plane into this movie?
Yeah, they literally make jokes about why are we putting snakes on a plane? He's like, this is the only way it's going to happen. It's like you could put a bomb on the plane and it would equally do what you want.
I mean, technically, I would argue that there was some sort of explosive mechanism on the plane already. That's how the snakes got basically flown out into the cargo hold.
Also, on top of that, how is this less incriminating than anything else? Like, literally anything else would be less incriminating to be like, oh, I guess the snakes just got on the plane somehow. It's like
all
obvious.
These really exotic, unique snakes.
But I think the whole thing too was supposed to be that the plane was they scheduled it so that the plane would have the snakes released 2 or 3 hours before it hit the mainland. So obviously it was supposed to go down in the ocean. So I think the whole premise is that no one was supposed to find the wreckage for a long time.
But they would find the snakes.
Why is this airplane full of snake bodies?
Their whole justification of why the sniffer dog and all their other screening didn't find them was well, the snakes are cold-blooded. And then that was it.
Oh, not only that, there was a cat on board, and clearly there's a cat next to the giant box of snakes, and dogs don't like cats, so just leave the whole thing alone.
To be honest, the whole flat part about that is the dog is on the plane to smell for explosives.
Yeah, it's for bombs.
Yes, and there was an explosive on the plane, but I get that's a swingable, swing and a miss type of thing. Is it's so small. It's
let
alone it could be
lays.
it also could have been air compressor or something else that wasn't explosive. Who knows? We're getting into too much detail.
But the bigger thing is after that all happens, right? There's a lot of the traditional horror movie going, oh, well, that just happens. Again, the snake biting the avionics, so that doesn't work.
Yeah,
right.
The snakes somehow making their way around the bottom of the airplane into the top of the airplane, and then falling when all the oxygen masks deploy. So that means every single snake that was there was just happened to be in the oxygen compartment, which I would assume is a sealed area.
Well, let alone the funny thing about the way that the plane was built is the coach was the bottom floor. And then there was an upper floor for first class that led into the captain's area. And somehow the snakes kind of skipped over all of coach, went above and around everything. Not only did the bathrooms first and obviously the oxygen, but also then hit the captain up first.
Mm-hmm.
They skipped so much of the plane to get to the people that mattered.
What I love is that this is the worst plane in the world because it's very open. Every part of the plane is not sealed. Snakes are just escaping out of the control panels and crawling all over the airplane. And one of them was in a toilet, which we've seen movies like Catch Me If You Can. There's room there. It's removable. But the snake was inside the toilet.
Yeah.
Which is inside not where the piping is.
Yeah, which is not supposed to be where the snake can get in. The snake can get around the toilet, but not inside the toilet. So it's just a fun movie to rip apart because there's so many inconsistencies with the way the movie plays out. It's
very aware of those inconsistencies, and it's written in a way that plays around that. And I feel obviously Jaws you would have to say is the best movie plot-wise.
Really of those three, for sure.
The way that it's written, the characters, all that kind of stuff. But you have to admit, Snakes on the Plane is the most entertaining of the three movies.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Constantly.
All three movies are entertaining.
There's so many things that Snakes on a Plane does well, in that, you get payoff a lot. As an example, the, uppity business guy who you basically, from the moment you meet him in the movie, you hate. Mm-hmm. There's a payoff to that. There's so many good moments in the movie, the older, the little boy being saved, or the older stewardess who was like, oh, like she saved a baby, but then she ends up passing away due to like, you know, blah, blah, blah. So there's like really good heartfelt moments throughout the movie. So they didn't focus on the overall plot. They're like, okay, we need these moments because these are all make good movies. So it was interesting that they threw a lot of that in there.
Yeah, and to the point of is this movie centralized around the creature, or could it last without it? I would say in this circumstance, you could basically tell the same story with nearly anything else, but it makes the movie that it's snakes because it's illogical that snakes would be on a plane,
Correct.
which is the purpose of this movie.
Yes.
Why would snakes be on a plane? Doesn't make sense, but that's fine because snakes on a train would also work. Like
That's true.
It's the ridiculousness that, and you know what? I would love to see snakes on a train because that would be even more implausible why they would be going up from cabin to cabin because trains are not connected that way.
Let alone you'd have to seal all of the doors to outside. Like that's the whole point of the plane and why it's so crazy is because it's up in the air. You can't get out of the plane.
Yeah.
You don't understand, Michael. A train is just a man-made snake.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah.
You know what?
That
I'm gonna
one
release
makes a lot
snakes
more
on a plane too.
Full
Cranes on a
circle.
train.
What? Cranes.
Aggressive cranes on the train.
Alligators on a train.
I kind of agree with you, Michael, on that point, but I also feel like it kind of had to be snakes because a lot of the plot progresses because of the fact that there were venomous snakes. So
Even though they kept saying poisonous.
yeah, which bugged me. But
Frogs on a crane.
oh my god.
A bunch of people are locked in a crane.
Oh, crane. Oh, I see. I thought I was like
we can't get out.
frogs
There's
on
frogs
another.
everywhere.
There's a frog on another animal, which is a crane.
But I definitely think that the plot is the snakes being on the plane, and it is driven by that because they can't go anywhere. The plot already is they are in a flight, and this is what they've got to deal with. There's like a set amount of time that they have. So it's not that the snakes are the obstacle because
They add in to what is.
They're the entire
plot of the
yeah,
movie.
They're the big bad throughout the entire thing.
yeah, because the
As
people
soon as it
can't-
starts, it is.
the people can't go anywhere. So it's not like they're trying to get through them. It's just like the snakes are the plot.
My other favorite part is towards the end of the movie when they're on the phone call with I don't remember, but it's like with the
snake expert?
The snake expert.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I need to know what poisons they are." And they're like, "Okay, we took a picture of some of them." I'm like, "There's literally hundreds of snakes on that plane, and they're trying to identify antidote for a specific bite." And I'm like, only the boy out of all of them
Knew which snake
knew which
bit.
snake.
Yeah.
But everybody else is dead. Anybody else who got bit is gone.
My ass.
I guess the funny thing is literally they solve the problem of the anti-venom by finding the dude who sold the guy the snakes. So they have literally every single anti-venom that would have been in there.
You just keep injecting somebody with all of them.
But no, they made a point of saying if you inject the wrong antivenom into the wrong victim, they'll die.
But
So-
and here's the thing that we almost would need to rewatch the movie to determine. Other than the boy, who else was? Oh, and then the one dude who got bit in the butt. Who else really needed antivenom at the end of the movie?
Yeah, everybody else was dead.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So they solved their own problem by just killing everybody else.
Yeah. And the butt guy, he seemed mostly fine.
Yeah,
Which-
I think he was fine, and I think they also knew what snake because I think he grabbed it.
Yeah.
So he knew.
Oh, because they had the body of the snake.
Yeah.
Which is the funniest thing is that every snake on there was venomous, but every snake is.
Not the big
there's
pipe.
one.
Oh, that's true.
Which I think was supposed to be an anaconda.
Was it?
I think so.
It was the
'Cause-
largest snake ever.
Usually
Yeah.
anacondas are really large.
Well, and they also do I think they have teeth as well.
multiple sets of teeth.
Yeah.
Because they're constrictors.
Yeah. And then they also like tear. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, ridiculous movie, but super fun. And obviously
It's really funny.
one of the most iconic one-liners in a lot of movies with Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm so sick of these monkey fighting planes on this Monday through Friday plane. Yeah. No, that's actually
snakes on.
That's the censored version. Actually, if you watch it on TV,
which we would also recommend because the edits in that are really funny.
Yeah, they're very blatant.
So, I guess I can go first as well. But you guys, if you had to recommend one of these movies for someone to watch, which one would it be? And for me, I'm going to go on the assumption that I am one of the few people that had never seen Jaws before. So I feel like you have to watch Snakes on a Plane because even if you've seen it before, it's probably going to be just as entertaining.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I would strongly recommend you watch Jaws. It will hold up forever. The special effects are great in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
And for the one part of the shark that doesn't move, because sharks have a little bit of movement when they swim, because their tail actually moves. The tail does not move in the movie.
Yeah.
It's a very solid object that's floating around through the water. That all gets thrown out the window because it's a terrific story.
Yeah. It's written really well.
Yeah, and actually there's a real dead body in the movie as well. Yes. The first body you see is a real one.
Oh yeah!
If you did not know
the
that.
Arm?
Yes, that's a real arm.
Was that the whole like it was going to be too expensive to have like the prop and they just bought something?
I think so. Yeah, they just bought an arm. But it's a really good movie, and I think anybody who watches it will enjoy it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the pacing is a lot better than most other movies that centralize around a monster.
That's true. Well, and the fact that it is 2 acts, I think, lends itself to the pace really well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to recommend Crawl because that's the only one that hasn't been recommended. I would still, if as far as iconic film movies, if you have not seen Jaws, it is a quintessential movie that everyone should see. Oh. But I wanted to kind of take a quick second to do some honorable mentions for creature features.
Welcome back to our channel, and
because
before we give you our number 1, we're going to give you some honorable mentions.
So for me, and actually I don't have my favorite one listed on here because I've seen it probably too many times. Deep Blue Sea is by far one of my favorite creature feature movies because it is like Snakes on a Plane,
it's terrible.
But technically it takes itself seriously, and that's why it is so funny.
It's not Snakes on a Plane, it's Sharks Under the Sea.
Right. It's smart sharks.
Yeah. With lasers on their head.
But it does also not follow some tropes, and the main characters in that are ridiculous, and there are so many ridiculous things in that movie. I could literally write like things to watch out for in Deep Blue Sea to make you laugh hysterically at the movie, and I would do that. Yeah, there's a couple other ones on here that I thought were worth mentioning because we'll probably end up doing some other episodes that are centralized around specific creatures. So the first one being Arachnophobia. It's a movie about spiders, obviously.
Also throw out there 8-legged freaks.
Yeah. So there's tons of different spider ones. The birds, which personally I was not a fan of. I like other Hitchcock movies a lot more. Mm-hmm. Anaconda. Multiple reasons why we didn't put it. Why I didn't choose it for this episode. I've seen it recently. I didn't like it as much, even though multiple people love that movie. J-Lo's in it. Blah blah blah. The Meg, more of a modern movie, but we went with Jaws, obviously.
It's a classic.
Yes. No.
Yeah.
No.
Jaws is a classic.
Yeah.
Cujo, on the other hand, is a classic. That's about a rabid dog, and it's a Stephen King book. And then I actually found this very strange, but Willard, it's a movie about a dude who basically befriends rats, and I didn't realize it was a remake. So there was the actually pretty popular one that was done in 2003, which has Crispin Glover, who was the dad from Back to the Future. Mm-hmm. I guess it was a remake of a 1971 movie, which I didn't know.
I'd never even heard of Willard.
Yeah, it's really like the 2003 one's super, super creepy. And the actor really makes the movie really creepy because he's already kind of gaunt and kind of frail. And so he plays it really, really well.
Interesting.
But there's obviously tons of other different animal movies, creature features associated with different animals.
And if you guys have a favorite creature feature movie that you think we need to watch, let us know as well, because I feel like, and we've kind of touched on it a little bit, but I feel like it would be pretty fun to do like specific episodes revolving around creature features of the same type of animal or creature. I feel like that would be rather interesting to then do the direct comparison of like, this one's all about spiders. Which one had the plot revolving the best and propelling the story through the best?
Around the spiders.
Around the spiders,
Yeah.
or are the spiders the plot? Like, is it a weird Aragog, like weird kind of spider?
I don't think we're going to include Harry Potter 2 in that creature
That's
feature.
a creature feature.
And Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets,
Yeah.
definitely creature feature.
That is kind of, but you know, if you consider a basilisk a creature feature,
That's another creature feature.
Yeah.
Boom.
Well, it had 2 creatures in it.
yeah,
It had a basilisk and spiders.
yeah.
And Voldemort.
But
Snakes on a campus.
yeah, I feel like I enjoyed this one. If you guys like these movie sort of themed episodes, let us know, because they are pretty fun for us to get together and watch and criticize or praise. And you know, if you guys found out something new through us, let us know. We appreciate it. We should be putting this up on YouTube, so if you're on YouTube, hi.
Hello.
And if you're not, then you just heard me wave. Yeah. So we've been Generally Casual. You can find us at Generally Casual on whatever thing you're on, we're on.
For now, we're the only generally casual on YouTube, so that's our claim to fame for now.
This is true.
Yep. And Michael just jinxed it.
There's 1,000 other channels now. We're generally and casual.
Yes. But thank you guys.
Yeah. And you know what? Because we talked about Jaws, do your research about sharks, because they're actually kind, friendly creatures, but don't bleed in the sea.
They're also ridiculously ancient and very, very interesting scientifically.
Same with gators.
Yes.
Well, thank you. Bye.